Yellowstone. Hey guys, everything new under the sun. This is the super volcano that, of course, everybody has lots of videos on. Fearmonger videos, if you will, about that. I've had a couple of comments about fearmongering. I'm just reporting the news. Don't blame me. I'm just literally bringing articles. I'm providing the links to these things. Not me saying this stuff. This is everybody else. But I believe it lines up with end-time Bible prophecy and the events that are spoken of in the Bible. It provides understanding. These events kind of provide clarity on why things are the way they are in end-time Bible prophecy. You say, I don't understand how we can get to the point of Bible prophecy where there's a one-world leader, an antichrist, a one-world government, a mark of the beast system. I don't see how the world gets there. I don't see how the world gets to the point of Ezekiel 38. I don't understand how the world gets to a point of Isaiah 17, the total destruction of Damascus. I don't see how the world gets there. Well, all these articles are leading up to this. And we see the earth groaning, and we see the biblical example of what the last days will look like. Men's hearts will fail them for fear of the things coming upon them. There's going to be economic hard times. The earth is going to be groaning. The sun will become dark as sackcloth. And all these things occurring in the last days, and I think they're all attributable to a collection of events. And one of those things is part of the earth groaning, the earthquakes happening around the world, and the volcanic eruptions, which are unprecedented effectively now. Hawaii in a state of emergency with FEMA there now, setting up FEMA camps, and there's whole articles about that, which I haven't even covered yet. I don't know if I will. But fascinating things, and it's a picture of what's coming upon the whole world and what's coming upon North America. North America's been at relative peace and security for a very long time, but North America, there's a lot of sin happening in North America. And Billy Graham said, if God doesn't judge, the U.S., he's going to have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's just as much sin, I think, in the U.S. and Canada these days, as there was in the days of Noah prior to the judgment, in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah prior to the judgment. We are certainly not making God happy. There's still a remnant here, so there's still a good excuse for a good suggestion that God will wait until He takes His people out, His remnant out, the pre-tribulation rapture, if that is what He plans on doing before destruction. But God is removing His hand of blessing. I believe Trump is in power for a particular reason in these last days. I'm not going to go through the whole reasoning, but I've said it in previous videos. I think he's there for a reason. I think maybe he's there to take the country through an economic collapse where they won't end up being a superpower at the other end, but they won't dissolve into a non-country, if you will. But that's part of the punishment. And I think, interestingly, Trump is, if you wanted anybody who could manage a situation through a bankruptcy, manage a company or a country through a bankruptcy, it would be him. He has the experience. So interesting election of Trump, and how it kind of plays in to God's timeline for end-time events. But this one, again, is interesting because you look at the volcano in Hawaii and you look at the Ring of Fire and things heating up all the way around. Now we have Yellowstone fears. Yellowstone eruption fears spike as largest geyser erupts for the 8th time. Yellowstone caldera eruption fears have spiked. So far, scientists aren't certain why the Steamboat Geyser continues to erupt, adding to the fears. This is rumbling. The earth is groaning. The earth is heating up, and the lava, the magma under the earth is starting to move around. God's waking up the earth because He's at the end of time, which I think is probably less than 10 years now. At the end of time, He's going to use fire to burn and cleanse the earth from all the sin, all the remnants of man. And so the engine is starting right now in the earth, so that God can use the natural occurrences, the natural lava and magma in the earth to cleanse it, so that we can live on a rebuilt earth for the millennial reign of Christ, which I think is possibly only 10 years away. It's incredible to think about. But I think that's where we're at. I think the end of the 6,000 years of man is about 2028. And so you come off that by 7 years for the 7-year tribulation. And you note that we're only about 3 years off, maybe less than that, from the Antichrist being revealed, the 7-year tribulation, and all the judgments that occur at the in the second half of the 7-year tribulation. The first 3.5 years of the persecution of basically the Christians and the rule and reign of the Antichrist. The last 3.5 years is the judgment of God upon the earth and the seals being broken open, the famine, the pestilence, all that. And then at the end of it, God's judgment on the earth and the breaking open of, I believe, the volcanoes and the continental plates, and the lava comes out and burns and cleanses the earth, basically, once that all that judgment is complete. Like I say, I think this is the run-up. I think this is part of the earth groaning, the birth pains, which increase in frequency and intensity. After years of silence, Yellowstone's Steamboat Geyser, a better show than Old Faithful, has spewed boiling water hundreds of feet in the air 8 times since March. Steamboat, the tallest geyser in the vast Yellowstone National Park, isn't reliable at all. Unlike the most famous Old Faithful that belches steam regularly, the fact is Steamboat has been more faithful, at least lately, spewing 8 times since March 14th, after being silent for nearly 4 years. But that regularity is terrifying and puzzling scientists. That means the lava, the magma, is moving underneath the earth, and it's causing this. That means there's a change afoot and underfoot. There's change happening in the earth. I believe it's prophesied. I believe that God is going to use this, and this is current events that are happening that show us that we're in the last days. Until the recent series of eruptions, the last time Steamboat blew was in September 2014. Steamboat's latest eruption on Monday was when the geyser shot boiling hot water hundreds of feet in the air. Steam billowed from the geyser for hours longer. Steamboat is located in Norris Geyser Basin, known as the hottest and most changeable thermal area in the nearly 3,500 square mile wilderness that sits on a volcanic hotspot called a caldera. The accounts for the geyser's towering column of steam that accounts for the geyser's towering column of steam, but leaves a major fear-provoking question. Why now? And is it a sign of the giant volcano waking up? Is it a sign of birth pains increasing and the last days being upon us? I think it's one of the signs. Scientists don't know why Steamboat Geyser has become more active. Well, I could tell you why, because the volcano as a whole is waking up. It's becoming more active. That's what happens when volcanoes become more active. Look at Hawaii. You have the small eruptions and then the big eruptions, and it's very active, and it's showing no signs of slowing in Hawaii. And I think that's going to cascade around the Ring of Fire, and you're going to have all the volcanoes starting to spew lava and rocks and ash into the sky. Remember, in the last days, the sun is obscured as sackcloth. It becomes dark as sackcloth. Is that because volcanic ash envelops the skies of the world? I believe that's exactly what we're heading towards. Data collected so far suggests a pattern of eruptions within the series. If it all proves out, the days surrounding June 11 and 12 are good dates potentially to see Steamboat Geyser erupt, if you want to go and watch it. Steamboat has a mystique about it because it's the tallest active geyser in the world. The day of the first eruption, park staff detected activity on nearby seismometers, so earthquakes were happening. Earthquakes in diverse places is what the Bible says. Thermal gauges and water discharges on a U.S. Geological Survey steam gauge. Yellowstone Park staff arrived in time to observe steam from the geyser, but no water column. This is a usual occurrence for a vigorous water eruption. The steam phase can last several hours. Scientists consider Yellowstone to be a super volcano, which refers to a volcano capable of an eruption of more than 240 cubic miles of magma, according to National Park Service. The distinction is based on massive eruptions over 600,000 years ago, and of course, that time scale is completely made up based on false dating information. It probably erupted about 4,500 years ago, about the time of Noah's flood. That's probably actually when it occurred, when the fountains of the deep were broken open and the flood occurred. And that's probably when all these things happened, or maybe just after that. Although the caldera is considered active, scientists believe that it is unlikely to erupt in the next thousands years. In the next 1,000 years, I think it's likely to erupt again, like the timescale of 600,000 being only about 4,500 from Noah's flood. I think it's going to erupt probably in the next 10 years, maybe at the end of 10 years, and I think that's why it's waking up right now, and God's going to use it to fulfill Bible prophecy. There doesn't seem to be a direct relationship between these eruptions and the supervolcano Poland wrote. The geyser is reflecting processes that are occurring in the shallowest part of the system, tens to perhaps a few hundred meters deep, whereas magmatic system starts about 5 kilometers down. Geysers are supposed to erupt, so what we're seeing now is normal behavior. Of course, they're calling it normal. They don't want to concern citizens, but this is the first time in 2014, and now it's erupting 8 times in a span of a number of weeks here. But of course, they're calling it normal activity. Once again, we are being told that this is all normal, abnormal activity. Normal, abnormal activity. So they're trying not to make the public fear effectively. But look, in the last days, God's going to use fire to destroy the earth, to cleanse it from all the stuff that man has been doing for 6,000 years. And I see that is that is the part that volcanoes and lava and magma play in the last days. As the fountains of the deep opened for Noah's flood and water flooded the earth, so will the fountains of magma from the deep flood the earth with lava and burn and reshape and cleanse the earth of all man's sin for the last 6,000 years and all that man has constructed, rebuilding it, getting it ready for the millennial reign of Christ that I think we're going to be into in the next, after the next 10 years, basically. I think it's that close. It could very well be that close with the prophetic events with Israel in the land. I could go on about the stuff that shows that we're in very, very close to the end, but that's where I think we are right now, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll leave it there. I'll put the link in the description. Let me know what you think. We'll see you guys in the next video.